I'm just going to go ahead and introduce myself since this is Kontext Coffee's very first Instagram live session.
Wow.
I'm Katja. I'm the owner of Kontext Coffee Company and the founder. We are a specialty coffee roaster based just outside Monmouth on the border between England and Wales. And our passion is for quality coffee, amazing coffee that tastes amazing, but even more than that, cheers. Even more than that, what is important to us is how this coffee gets to your cup, where it comes from, and how it is produced, basically. And so we've decided to launch this coffee chat series to give you some insights into how that all happens, some insights or context, no pun intended. So here we are. I have invited my friend and mentor, Dr. Jürgen Piechaczek, coffee consultant from Berlin, to join us for the first coffee chat. And hello, Jürgen, welcome.
Hi, Katja. Nice to see you again.
Yes, thanks for joining me. And we are going to talk about specialty coffee and fair trade, just to lay the groundwork for, for a common understanding of what specialty coffee is and what fair trade looks like from our perspective at Kontext Coffee, but just in general as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, again, thanks for joining us, Jürgen. Maybe we can start off by you just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do in the coffee industry.
Yeah, I'm a consulting in coffee, more in the whole coffee industry, from farming until the final cup. So my background is that I did PhD in agriculture in a coffee project now 15 years back in Colombia. And the context of this study was to find out what is specialty coffee or high quality coffee and what does it bring to farmers, in terms of income, and what type of farmers do this. You need to have basic understanding as a farmer to produce high quality coffee. So it had a lot of costs, and so my study was to find out, is this a positive investment for farmers? And it is. It's like farmers can earn a lot of more money when they're focusing on specialty coffee. So after that, I founded my own roastery, and that's where I meet Katja now. I would say 10 years back, like in 2011, 12. And after 2016, 17, I sold my part of the roastery, and now I'm focusing on consultancy in the region as well as here in consuming countries like in Western Europe. So my work is basically quality control issues, quality control management issues, like in producing countries, how farmers can get better quality by implementing tools which helps them to produce better quality, to bring coffees to the countries where they're consuming, and by this earning more money. And the other way here, I help roasteries to improve their production and quality control management. So this is my background, as well as I'm always also thinking about how can we as a industry improve livelihood in our regions. This is very important, because when you go to a region and see how farmers are living in which very difficult conditions, it's necessary that we pay more, and by this, the livelihood of these farmers can get better.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you already mentioned on this end of the supply chain or the value chain, you work, for example, with roasters to help them up their game. Can you give an example of what that work or your work looks like a bit more specifically at origin then? Because I know that you've worked, for example, in Mexico with government agencies or the agricultural agencies there to work with farmers.
Yes, in the region there's a lot of options. No, one is work with governments, work with NGOs, but mostly I work directly with farmers organizations, so they pay me to help them to improve their quality, and this is like a win-win situation. No? When I help them to improve their quality, they can earn more money and they can pay me. So normally there's a positive investment for them. No? Then when they when after helping them, they have more income, and by this they have new structures, new directly options to sell coffee. No, this is very important because, as we know, coffee is a post-colonial product, and still the value chain is dominated by big companies. No, and they're not manipulating the price, but the options for farmers not so much. No, it's like direct trade, like you do, is a very small part of the business. No, it's like around 1 or 2% of the whole market, and this is very small. 98% of the market is dominated by big companies, and they can decide where and what they buy. No, and this is keeping some farmers out of the market.
Mm-hmm. Maybe this is a good point to talk briefly about what specialty coffee actually is. I mean, it's a that in the industry, working in the industry, we all use it, and you know, it's just a thing for all of us to speak about specialty coffee. But I think in this context, it's interesting to actually look at what specialty coffee opposed to other kinds of coffee. And specifically, I suppose, what is specialty coffee and what sets it apart from commodity grade or commercial coffee, right? Can you give us some insights into that?
Yeah, specialty coffee was founded, I would say, in the 70s, no, back in the US. There were people who found out that the quality of coffee went down after the 60s in the US. So companies like Starbucks or Peet's Coffee are founded in this area. And also Specialty Coffee Association was founded in this time. No? So by definition, specialty coffee is a coffee which has more than 80 points and less than 5 secondary defects. So what does it mean? No, this is like by this definition, the value chain was changed. In the past, there was no qualification issues. It was like someone was cupping the coffee and say, this coffee is good for this market, this coffee is good for that market. So this was very subject definition of quality. So, but after the Specialty Coffee Association was founded in the US, there was a definition and more objective definition of quality. So a specialty coffee by definition is more than 80 points and has less than 5 defects in green grading.
Was also basically set by the Specialty Coffee Association then? Or where does the 80...
I didn't understand well, sorry.
The point system, so those 80 to 90 points, where does that originate?
The coffee industry learned from wine production. No? So mostly a lot of the definition of quality come from wine, and they adapted this system for coffee. So I'm not really sure who was doing this, no, but there was like the common definition of the people working in specialty industry back then in the US, that the coffee by definition has more than 80 points is a specialty coffee, But as we now roasteries who are working in specialty coffee are more specific, they use coffee more than 84, 85 points. So when you are a grocery that is focusing now on specialty coffee, we have like coffees which has more quality than 80 points, because 80 is something better coffee which you can buy in a supermarket.
Yeah. So this quality system of attributing points to coffee quality refers to quality markers that we find as coffee professionals when we assess the taste and the aroma and all the sensorial properties of coffee on the cupping table. So that's the methodology that I just introduced in my last post on Friday, where we brew the coffee in a cup essentially, and then smell the aromas that the coffee has to offer, as well as tasting it and assessing certain properties that the coffee presents in the cup, like, for example, acidity levels of sweetness, the body of the coffee in the mouth, aftertaste, and other quality markers. And that's the system that you're referring to, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yes, this system is has two chapters. No, first is the green grading of raw coffee, like green coffee. So when the coffee has less than 5 defects, this is very essential.
And defects.
And after,
for
like broken bones, black beans, like insect holes in the beans, something like that. No, so a lot of defects which come from production. So it's normal. No, it's very normal that we don't have a coffee without defects. So normally there's the coffee are processed in a dry mill, and by the dry mill you can reduce defects. No, there are some color sorters, for example, in mostly all the regions now implemented, that can reduce defects in coffee. So, but in the end, when you have a lot of defects in green coffee, you will have the same defects in cup, because the defects are reducing quality in cup. For us as a consumer, the defects are not so important, but for us as a consumer, more important is the taste of the coffee, like you said before. No, so this cupping table where we can analyze the coffee by tasting and smelling and find out, is this a good cup or not, and not by, it's for me a good cup. It must be an objective some analysis of the coffee.
Yeah.
Me as a professional, I do not judge coffee by my own tastes, so it must be more objective, and which helps that we analyze the coffee, and in the end the consumers get a good cup for a good price. This is very important. There's a correlation. When you have higher quality, you pay more for a coffee, like in wine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so if a coffee scores those 80 points or more, it qualifies as specialty grade coffee. And anything below 80 points would be considered commodity grade or commercial coffee.
Yeah.
So those are the differences in quality and the differences in the cup as well. It influences flavor in the coffee in your cup, and at the end also the price that you pay for it in the supermarket or at the roastery where you buy your coffee. But there are other aspects to these differences as well, aren't there? The way that specialty grade coffee is traded versus the way commodity grade coffee is traded. It's really already, isn't it?
Yeah, I just reading the question from Hill Farm.
I just saw that.
Yeah.
Hello.
So just to answer this question, is this especially coffee graded at source or with the roasteries? In both, it's like, first of all, it will be graded in origin by professional. We say a professional is a Q grader, for example. This is you can make a Q grader grade after a few years in the industry, because when you starting, you need to understand how to judge in a correct way, and after a few years in the industry, you can do this Q grading trainings. And this is very helpful because with this type of trainings, we have more an objective view on a coffee. So mostly on all time, in all cases, the coffee is first judged in origin analysis, and then the coffee farmers or the coffee farmer association send samples to the roasteries or to importers, and they do the same analysis again. So in most of cases, there are 2 or more analyses of a cup of a coffee, no? So, and you as a buyer, you don't do one cupping. I guess you do a lot of cuppings before you buy a coffee, just to be sure you buy the right coffee for your customers.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the same for a commodity grade coffee and specialty coffee?
I would say in commodity coffee, it's just normally the bigger importers have an exporting company in all of the regions. So they're doing one cupping and sending then some samples to importing agencies, and they just do a small cupping and say, okay, yeah, let's buy this coffee. And they buy like bulk coffee, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 containers. And one container is more than 17 tons. No, so it's a lot of coffee. For you as a small company, you buy just a few bags from one region, no, and bigger companies buying bulk coffee, like a lot of quantity.
Yeah.
So they do a cupping, but this is not the same. No, it's very, very reduced, and just saying, okay, is this coffee we find a market or not? No, it's not doing an analysis and giving an exam for this coffee, no, like we do in specialty coffee.
And I would guess that one of the main reasons for this is that in commercial grade coffee, it's less common to actually work with single origin coffees like we do in the specialty world, where we choose just one coffee from one origin, from one region, maybe even from one farmer, and roast only this coffee on its own and sell it to the end consumer. Whereas with commercial grade coffee that is of lower quality and doesn't present as nicely in the cup, is usually used more for blends. Is that true?
Yeah. When you buy a coffee like from a bigger company, like I don't know which is a good brand in UK in the supermarket, a good example. So when you buy a coffee in a supermarket, normally this is a coffee that has 4 or 5 origins inside one coffee, no? And normally it's changing over the year. So mostly all coffees have Robusta from Vietnam inside. So 30-40% of this commercial coffee has 30-40% of Vietnam Robusta, around 40% Arabica from Brazil, and the rest is changing over the year. So you have normally 2 regions inside one coffee, which are very not high quality coffee, very low grade coffee, and then the roasteries, the bigger roasteries, and doing some coffees from Central America or from Africa inside to improve a bit the cup. So this is normally the idea of blending coffee to put some very low grade cheap coffee inside and put on top some better coffees to improve the cup quality. So that's the difference to a specialty coffee roaster. No, as you do, you say this coffee is from this exactly farm from this country, and you can tell a story about the coffee. A commercial coffee producer, no, like a roastery, can't tell you which coffee is inside the bag, no, which exactly coffee. They can say, it could be like this, no, but they can't say directly, this is a coffee from this origin, from this farmer, with this story, with this background. And you, as a smaller producer or roastery, you can say, this coffee is exactly from this person, and he's living in this situation, no? Yes. And by paying more, he can improve his life a bit. No? This is so the idea
is
of specialty coffee.
One big factor that makes a difference between specialty grade coffee and commercial grade coffee. in specialty coffee, usually with a bit of effort, you'll be able to trace the coffee back all the way to origin and even down to the individual producer. Whereas with commercial grade coffee, you don't get that same depth of information when you buy coffee. And also, if you blend it, it doesn't matter as much. So blends, on the one hand, they have something to do with the pricing of the product, but they're also about consistency. And that's, I suppose, because blends obviously don't only exist in the commercial coffee world. Specialty coffee roasters also do blends. But the big difference is that usually they will still be able to tell you the individual components of that blend will be traceable back to origin and back to the actual producer, and they will still be of a certain quality, and then just aim for that consistency throughout the year to be able to give your customers one coffee that tastes more or less the same throughout the year. You might still use different components, but the goal will be to get a consistent taste profile.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's very true. You can do this by blending and also by the type of roast you do. No, normally when you buy coffee from bigger companies, the roasts are darker than in a specialty roastery, because when you roast darker, you can enter cheaper coffee. No, by roasting you can reduce the off taste of defects in a cup. Mm-hmm. So normally this is part of a bigger company to do this, not only by blending, also by the type of roast you offer. No, normally when you go to a specialty coffee roastery, the first thing you will find out, the coffee tastes different. No, it's not as dark and bitter, because good coffee don't need to taste bitter. No, this is because in the past the bigger roasting companies used a lot of cheap coffee, and then you need to roast darker to reduce this off taste. So when you go to a specialty coffee roastery, the first thing you will find out, the roasts are lighter and more tasty, like chocolate, citrus, or almonds and something like that. No? Mm-hmm. So you can define tastes in a cup, which you not can do in a commercial coffee,
because it's so darkly roasted that you can't burn those individual flavors as succinctly as with the lighter roasts.
Yeah. Mm. And here in Germany, for example, people normally drink coffee with milk. No, so this is helps you also to improve cup quality as a commercial coffee. So when you switch to a specialty coffee, the first thing you do is to not use milk anymore or sugar.
Yeah, that we would love for everyone to do it.
But this is the idea.
Switch to specialty coffee, you leave the milk.
Yeah. No, this is very important, no, because the coffee has so much to offer, no. Like coffee has more aromas than wine, no. We speak about around 800 to 1,000 aromas inside coffee. So, and that make coffee difficult to judge, because humans have different perceptions, no. Some people taste more citric notes, others taste more chocolate notes. So, and coffee is a very complex aroma from an aroma perspective product. So you can find a lot of nicely differentiated aromas inside one cup.
It's complex, yeah.
Really complex. And it's different, no? When you taste the coffee when it's hot, it's different when it tastes it when it's cold. So a good cup of coffee, it's always you can drink cold. No, you can drink a high quality coffee with a low temperature too. No, and it's not tasting awful. It's tasting nice.
The taste will change as it cools down, but it'll still be very palatable and very drinkable for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've talked a bit about the quality aspect that differentiates specialty coffee from commodity or commercial grade coffee. Let's look at the trade side of things. What are the differences in how those different quality grades in the raw product are traded?
Yeah, when you the commercial side of specialty coffee versus commercial coffee is very different, no? Normally, commercial coffee, as I told before, is in a value chain is transported in huge quantities. So normally, from one region, a bigger company buys 10, 15, 20 containers, no? In a commercial for commercial coffee. So when you switch to specialty coffee, the first thing you do is to have to reduce the quantity of each lot. So normally we speak about micro lots, no? When we speak about specialty coffee. So
from farmer's perspective, or you mean as a coffee farmer when you switch from commodity grade to specialty grade, or?
Yeah, okay. Specialty coffee is not only produced in small farms, no? First of all, so you can produce specialty coffee also in bigger farms in Brazil, for example. So, but not the whole farm as a farm produce specialty coffee. So the first thing a farmer with a bigger farm is doing is to differentiate the lots on his farm. No? So he has like a lot of lots to differentiate the quality of each sector of his farm. So the first thing which was implemented was the ideas of lots. So we have one lot in the south area of the farm or in the west area, something like that. So farmers can understand which area is more suitable for quality. So normally only 10 to 15% of the production is high quality coffee. The rest is commercial coffee for each farmer, no? Sometimes it's getting up to 20, 30%, but not how the whole farm is producing high quality. So normally a farmer can only sell a part of his production to the specialty coffee area. So for this, it's very important to understand that farmers operating with sectors on the farm to understand which sector is producing quality. So that's why I said we speaking about micro lots, no? Because not the farmers at all or with all the parts of the farm can produce it. So the farmer needs to understand which areas are more suitable for quality. So this is the first change, no, for a farmer. Farmer needs to understand which area is more suitable for quality. Then the second difference is that we are judging the coffee as we spoke before, no, like with cupping and green grading, and that is a difference. So each of these ideas enter costs. So the production of specialty coffee is more costly than commercial coffee. So
why is it more expensive for a farmer to grow specialty coffee than commercial coffee?
Yeah, first of all these ideas not to separate of separation of each of the sectors cost more in terms of harvesting. No? The second thing is the harvest is different. No? Normally, commercial coffee, we say farmers using this stripping method. No? Stripping means that they put all cherries together in one basket. So when we speak about quality coffee, high quality coffee, the farmers are doing selective hand picking. So only ripe cherries, cherry by cherry. So it takes more time to harvest a coffee tree,
because
which leads to higher cost.
Stripping the cherries off the tree means that on one branch of a tree, there will always be some cherries that are ripe, some cherries that are still green and not ripe at all, and then some that are in between. And if you just strip down all the cherries from one branch, then you'll have that mix of cherries in your basket, and that influences the quality and the taste of the coffee that comes out of those cherries.
That's true. No, this is the first difference too. No, sectors on a farm, then the harvesting method is changing. That leads to higher costs. Then post-harvesting methods are changing, like fermentation. No, we have several possibilities to ferment coffee. Ferment means to we as a coffee consumer just drink the seed of a coffee cherry. No, this is the idea. So fermentation means to reduce the fruit pulp around the seed. So we have like a cherry. The coffee cherry has the seed, and we as a coffee roastery just need the seed, and by a fermentation we reduce this fruit pulp. And there's several possibilities. No, like there's a natural fermentation. That means we put the cherry only in the sun, and the fermentation reduce the fruit, and then we hull this cherry, and we have the coffee seed. So there's washed coffee. There's another method, and washed coffee is we depulping the coffee cherry, and in the end we have the parchment, and we dry the parchment. So there are differentiated methods, and also in for quality coffee you need to do more work to get a better cup. No, in these steps too. So each of these steps brings higher cost for the coffee farmer in the end.
Okay, and does that I mean, intuitively, from a Western perspective, and having some version of an economic background, you would think that if a farmer starts differentiating, some coffee trees on his farm will still yield commercial grade coffee, but for some of the areas on his farm, he starts separating those parts into micro lots and starts putting more care and work and effort into growing specialty grade coffee on those micro lots and processing the coffee accordingly. So he will incur more costs in doing that. Does that mean that he will automatically get a better price for it as well?
No. So he needs to have buyers, no? And this is very difficult because the market is growing, but there's more coffee, high quality coffee on the market than buyers in the end. So not all quality coffee find the market where we can where it can be consumed. No, I always see this in Mexico, for example. There's a lot of high quality coffee, but in the end, a huge part of quality coffee is sold as commercial coffee with a lower price. No, and this is very frustrating for farmers. You do all this effort, and in the end, you don't find a buyer for your coffee because there's not enough. And especially in the last year with all this COVID situation, a lot of coffee which had high quality was sold as commercial coffee with a very low price. You know? And this is for farmers very frustrating. And in the end, you see this the consequences, no? Like small farmers from El Salvador and Honduras heading to US to find a job which offers them more income. You know? When you see the pictures in newspapers or in news coverage in the TV, this are poor people from rural areas which are normally producing coffee. You know? But the coffee industry not offering enough for their livelihood, so they search other options. Another option is to go to US and earn money in fabrication or in food production or something like that. No,
I think that was, for me, working in the coffee industry, that was one of the milestones on my path to learning about coffee, and you know, I'm still on that path. I'm still continuing to learn and to to understand step by step more and more how the supply chain or the coffee value chain essentially works. But one of the crucial insights for me in this was to understand that the coffee market is a buyer-driven market. So it's not the farmers, the people who produce the coffee, and in the end produce the largest part of the value that is in coffee, who can set the price for their product. But it's the buyers in the West, in the consuming countries, who basically name the price and then give the farmer the choice to either take it or leave it, because the coffee production in the growing countries is so big worldwide that they will always find other growers.
Yeah, but it's changing, no? In the specialty coffee industry, it's changing. When you are famous as a farmer, you have market power, no? There are some farmers have market power in the market because they're doing a great job and they're producing coffees in extraordinary quality, like around 90 points, no? And
that would be coffee. That's specialty grade coffee then.
Yeah. This is the difference, no? Hopefully this will change in the future more and more, that farmers gain power, no? And market power, and that would be very, very important to change the market, no? As far, or at that moment we still are in post-colonized system, no? Where consuming countries dominating the price, and can say, okay, when you don't sell me the coffee for this price, I will find someone else, no, who's offering me the coffee for that price. As we know, no, world market price for coffee, which is done for Arabica in New York and for Robusta in London, not reflecting the production costs. No? Normally, when the world market price is very low, like in the moment, like around this. World market price for coffee is in US cent per American pound. It's around 110, 120. And production costs are in a lot of cases 150, 160, no? When you do a really good analysis. So normally a lot of farmers produce coffee and don't pay them their work in the right way. So this is the consequence, no? When you're selling your coffee for 120 US cent per pound, you're not paying yourself for your work.
Yeah,
and that's a pity. It's very
not sustainable.
Frustrating for them, no, not to receive the amount of money they need for their life.
Yeah, it's not sustainable in the actual sense of the world. They can't sustain their livelihood by growing coffee and having to sell at a price that's below their production costs, essentially. But you mentioned this as a side note, essentially, that the price for Arabica is set in New York and the price for Robusta in London. That brings us to the next sort of step in the value chain, doesn't it? Commodity grade coffee doesn't work in the same way as specialty coffee does, where you have the grower and then you have a buyer, and those two come together. And maybe there's an exporter and importer, and then you have the roaster. So that's the chain there. But with commercial grade coffee, the trade actually happens on the commodity market. So commercial grade coffee is traded via the commodity exchange. Is that right?
Not 100% like this, no. It's the market price is the world market price is, how to say it in the right way, is a shared price of different prices, no. We have like the price for Robusta coffee, we have the price for Brazilian coffees, for Colombian coffees, and so on. So there are 5-6 prices which finds the world market price for coffee. So normally there's like the bigger companies or importers or these companies have like their exporting agencies in the producing countries. So these agencies getting samples from producer groups or from bigger producers and doing the cupping, as we told before, no, like this, not by the SCA scheme. It's a very simple cupping, and they defining if is this coffee worthwhile to bring it to consuming countries. So there's a minimum standard. So there's it's not only the this exchange. No, this exchange is not the normal system. Normally, there are coming samples from origin to importing agencies, but you don't know who is the producer in the end anymore. There's no direct connection because there are export agencies and they're doing the fine sampling. And in the end, in the commercial coffee, you don't know who's the producer on the other side. No, and this is the difference in specialty coffee because there's like this direct interaction between producers and roasters. Normally, you're getting a sample from the producer, you talk to them, and if you have time and there's no COVID, you go to producing countries, visit them, talk to them, understand how is their life, and so on and so on. So this is a big difference, no? This is a more important difference. There are some exchanges, as you mentioned. But this is only in Tanzania and in Kenya, no? It's the case where you don't know who, where the coffee is traded in exchanges, in coffee exchanges. However, no. But in the end, specialty coffee, the most important idea is to get a direct contact to the farmer. Mm-hmm. That you, as a producer, a roaster, are connected directly to the farmer. Mm-hmm. In the end. So the value chain is cut off, no? All these middlemen, and they're doing services in the end, no? You can't import coffee or bring coffee from a region by yourself, no? Because you need to bring it on a container ship and so on and so on. But in the end, you need someone who's doing the services, but you're dealing directly with the farmer. And this is, now we come to the term direct trade, no? For me, direct trade is when you do a direct all this buying directly from the farmer. Mm-hmm. So you do it contract with the farmer, then it's for me direct trade.
And I mean, those are basically the two extremes, right? And it's not always one or the other. It's not always you buy large quantities of low quality coffee and you have no idea other than that it's from Brazil. You don't actually know where in Brazil or who grew it. That's the one extreme in the commercial sector of coffee. And then the other extreme is a roaster going to origin and working with individual farmers and organizing everything, the logistics chain that is necessary to get the coffee from that farm to your roastery. Organizing that yourself is the other extreme. And obviously you have to be able to buy an amount of coffee that justifies buying a slot on a container ship. So you have to buy a certain quantity, and there are certain stepstones that need to be taken into account for all of that to happen. A lot of smaller specialty roasteries in the specialty sector. I mean, as you said, there is no actual definition of direct trade. I agree with you. That's the ideal way of direct trade, is going to the farmer, buying directly from the farmer, and keeping as much value in as short a value chain as possible, so that the farmer gets the fairest share of the price that's agreed upon. But in some cases, that's not necessarily always possible, right?
It's not possible, and in the end, no, direct trade doesn't mean that you pay the farmer in the right way. No, mm-hmm. You can pay them a low price with direct trade too. So the consequence is you don't need to do direct trade in the end, which is important to pay the farmer a good price for the product, no? A fair price, or a price which reflects the cost of production and also improves their livelihoods. And this is not necessarily done by direct trade, no? Could be also that you buy a coffee from a specialty coffee importer, no? For example, which are working in these countries, knowing all the farmers, know all the livelihoods, and where and these importers offering, for example, traceability, no? Where you know what is the price the farmer, which is the price which the farmer get from your purchase, no? This is very important. You don't need to do direct trade. Which more important is that farmer gets the price which reflects the production cost, and also to help them to bring their children to school and so on and so on.
A price that essentially generates a living income. I think one of the terms being used more and more, and that's, to me, just thinking about it, and along the lines of common sense. That's the crucial aspect of what we're trying to achieve at Kontext, anyways. But what a lot of other roasteries in the specialty grade sector are becoming more and more aware of as well, and are working hard to do something about that imbalance in our industry.
That's very important, no? That you as a roaster company focusing on these ideas. So we always thinking about how can we change the world to a better place, no? But this is an example to do this, no? That farmers are not going to other countries to offer their work, no? In US, for example, or here in Europe, no? There's always a story behind a person who leaves his country. The people don't do it because they are happy to leave their country, no, because there's a need and there's a problem and there's not enough income, for example, or the social situation in rural areas is not easy, no. So I know stories where children need to walk 1.5 hours every day to go to school, for example, and that's not easy, no. This is not easy living conditions, and in the end, we can help them to help to improve their life livings by paying more for a good cup of coffee, for example. No?
And I think
it's a small step for us, and a big step for farmers there. No?
And I think another important realization in that is, as you said before, coffee is a colonial or post-colonial product. It still is. And so paying fair prices isn't only about the aspect of helping the farmers. It's about redefining that relationship, isn't it? It's about viewing them as partners, as true partners in a trade. Which they are. They produce the largest part of the value that ends up in your cup. They make that coffee that tastes so amazing. And then roaster, you as you said before, you can go different ways in how you roast it and influence the taste, but you can only work with what's already in that seed that you bought from origin, right? And so I think it's an important aspect to keep in mind as well, that they're not, coffee farmers aren't just the poor individuals living below poverty levels in the poorest countries in the world, but they are entrepreneurs as well. They run a business and they need to achieve a certain price for their product. And because the power balance is skewed in our industry, it's harder for them to achieve that goal. But it is our responsibility on the other end of that value chain to make sure that this balance is brought back to a better level. That's my take on it.
Yeah, that's very important, no? Because the problem is the distances, no? a farmer can't come here to sell their products. No, we here in Europe, or in the Western world, the situation between consumers and farmers are changing in the recent years. No, more farmer markets existing, people buying more directly their daily living food products from farmers. No, like you can observe this in a lot of areas in Europe where farmers gaining more power because they're searching their direct trade model. No, this is a direct trade model too. When you go out to a farmer market and sell your products, but a coffee farmer can't come to Europe or to US and sell their products. So they need middlemen like you to pay them right and produce a good cup of coffee in the end. And from my perspective, 90% of the quality is done by the farmer in a coffee product, in coffee. And the rest is done by a roaster, and a small part is done by a barista. Sorry to say, that's my perspective.
Or the end consumer at home and how they brew.
Yeah, that's true. No? And yeah, we need to see coffee more as not a daily thing. No, it's like we need to understand there's a lot of effort to produce coffee inside. No, you have one harvest in a year, and the farmers need to wait 3 years before the tree has the first cherries. So there's a lot of investment before coffee producer get income out of their plantation. So yeah, we as a consumer should change our view on the product, and understand this cup of coffee has more to offer than just waking up like to the caffeine inside. No.
Yeah, and I think also because here in the West, in consuming countries, coffee is a very sexy topic, isn't it? It's a very hipster sort of topic as well. So
yeah, but it's changed, no?
Pardon?
It changed in the last 7-8 years. The view on coffee changed. No, now a lot of youngsters working in coffee shops as a barista, for example, or building up their roasteries around the globe. No, you will find high specialty coffee shop in every area, in every country. No.
Yeah.
So recently I saw, for example, in Iran are now specialty coffee roasters. No, in other countries where you thought, oh, this is a tea consuming country. For example, India. No, the specialty coffee industry in India is changing very fast, and it's very sexy to drink coffee, for example, in Southeast Asia, no, in China or in Japan or Indonesia. Yeah. So it's a global hipster product, but not all of the value goes to the farmer. So just a small part of the value goes to the farmer. And this is, from my point of view, we should change it. No, more share of the value should go to the producer of the coffee.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think part of that imbalance also stems from an imbalance in information in a way, because at most origins where coffee is grown, coffee isn't actually the beverage as we know it, but coffee is traded as cherries in many African countries. So growers sell cherries, they sell fruit. They don't sell coffee as we understand coffee. And in many of the coffee growing countries, people don't frequently or habitually drink coffee. That's just not a thing. It's an agricultural crop to them. And so not every coffee farmer has a wholesome understanding of what their product that they produce means to the end consumer in Western consuming countries. I wonder if more coffee farmers actually understood how much consumers are willing to pay for a cup of coffee, whether that would change the way they view their own bargaining position when it comes to the price. Even though it's not only about that understanding, it's about power as well in that context. But I do feel like there's an imbalance in how the information about the product itself is distributed along the value chain as well.
Yeah, I know some stories from farmers. No, they were invited to go to US or to Europe to visit roasters or to visit importers, and it was like eye-opening situations for them to see how their product is offered here in a market, in specialty coffee roasters or something like that. No, because as you told before, you don't find that structure in producing countries. There are some small shops now, for example, in Mexico and Central America, they're opening more and more specialty roasters. But comparing to the situation here, it's very little, no? So for farmers, it's always eye-opening when they're coming to US or to Europe or to Australia to see how their coffee is sold in a market and how it is presented and how people are enjoying a good cup of coffee, no, in the sun, reading a newspaper, talking to a friend or something like that. So the social structure of the product here, no, it's not reflecting the situation in these countries. No, coffee for them, it's just a beverage in the morning. It's nothing where you spend time to enjoy it. No, so this is a big difference.
Yeah.
For producers, it's work and it's not pleasure, and for us, it's pleasure. And a coffee shop isn't more just coffee, no? It's a social spot where you meet other people and where you exchange ideas or something like that. So, but the coffee is very important for this social spot. So, we should value this product more, no? We should offer farmers more for their work.
Look down the value chain to see what the story is on the other end. Yeah, definitely. So maybe just as like a roundup of what we've talked about, a big question for you. We've talked about commercial grade coffee. We've talked about specialty coffee. We've talked about how coffee is perceived at origin versus how it is perceived and consumed in consuming countries. What do you think a fair or fairer model of trading coffee along the different steps of the value chain should and could look like then? What do we need to work towards? Because as you said, in many countries, coffee growers don't only grow commercial coffee or specialty coffee, they grow both, or how does that come together?
I think in the end, we need to find a model where we can offer farmers a minimum price, and it's not reflecting to the quality. No, for example, there are, as you told before, there's this idea of living wages. No, and when you see the consequences of this calculation of living wages, you will find out that the farmers need a minimum price around 210, 225 US cent per American pound. So now we're offering a farmer 100, 120, no, in a world market with a world market price. So there's like 50 to 60% lower than the living wages price. So in the end, we need to find we as a consumer need to find a way to improve this price. This is very important. When we don't do this, if we don't have the same differences in quality in the future, because the topic of climate change, we didn't talk about it, has a big influence on coffee production. No, there are some models that say 50 to 80% of producing areas will will not be able to produce coffee anymore after 2050. No? So if we don't change the price model now, there will be no future in coffee, because there's no incentive for farmers to improve their quality, to improve their production scheme, to face climate change and so on. So we need to find something, a minimum income, a minimum price, which would be around 200, 210 cents per pound. No? Like the cacao industry did in the past. No, there's like a minimum understanding what is necessary for cacao. So we need this type of model for coffee in the future. Mm-hmm. Minimum standards.
Yeah,
fair trade is not offering that. No, fair trade is paying 140 plus 20 for quality and 30 for organic. So it's 140, 160, 190.
You're talking about fair trade as in the certification organization.
Yeah.
Certified fair trade. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's a start, right? To have an organization like that in the first place, it's a start. But you're saying it's not enough. We need to do more as an industry. Really, we need to do more to make sure that farmers have a sustainable way of making a living, especially with a view to climate change, which we'll hopefully be able to tackle in one of the next coffee chats as well, the impact of climate change on coffee.
It's very important, no? And without a fair living or price for living for farmers, we don't have a future in coffee, or not like we have now, like these different origins with different tastes. So when we don't change the price model, a lot of producing countries will not exist anymore in 10, 15, 20 years. So it's urgent now to change something, no? And the first thing would be that, for example, fair trade is offering a higher price, or there's a minimum standard in an industry where all the industry says, okay, let's pay 210 or 220, no? To make sure that farmers have an incentive to carry on their production, to invest in their business and improve their quality, improve their plantation, improve their shade system, something like that. No?
And how do you think we could get to a consensus like that? Is there a common platform where buyers, especially bigger companies, get together to talk about things like that, or where there would be a chance of agreeing something like a minimum price for coffee?
There's something like the producer forum, no? Where every 2 years the producers come together and talk about the type of issues. So 2019, the producer forum was in Brazil, and I went there, and it's difficult because there are different perspectives from producers on this topic. So first of all, I think the producers need to speak with one voice. And then there are some investigations done by Jeffrey Sachs, who's a very known economic professor from US, from Stanford, and he did an investigation about this topic. And he said, okay, we as the whole industry need to invest billions of dollars that we have a future in coffee. So his ideas was that producing countries spend a part, NGOs spending a part, consuming countries spending a part of this budget to improve the coffee production, to pay better price, and so on and so on. But until now, there's no solution. No? There are a lot of ideas, but in the end, there's the industry does not understand that they need to change something, because they are depending on coffee producers. And if the coffee producers can't produce any more coffee, the whole industry will disappear, no? Or there will be no coffee anymore.
I mean, coffee is a huge industry worldwide, right? So I think that's probably part of it. I think if we all set our minds to making a true sustainable change, then there's a lot of power and energy and force behind the industry because it is so big, but also because it is so big, it just takes a lot to get it moving in the right direction. And it's not like it's not moving in the right direction at all. There are many initiatives and many things happening to improve this imbalance in the trade and in the value chain. But as you said, because issues like climate change and the living situations for many farmers at origins are so urgent, I think that sense of urgency hasn't quite made its way up all the way into our end of the value chain. Not enough anyways, yeah.
Yeah, but it's good that we talk about it, no? It's that we can do by this talking influence some people, and maybe these people are listening to us buying coffee with a higher value, where they are sure that a big part of this value goes to the farmer, no? This is the consequence, no? That every human can change a bit by consuming the right products and which products which offer traceability, where you can be sure that this value goes to a farmer in a poor area, no?
Yeah.
And help them to improve their living. And it's the same like your environment is, no? Where farmers bring their product to the market. When you buy these products, you're able to improve the livelihood of a farmer in your area too. It's the same situation, no?
Yes, it is. Yeah, direct trade doesn't only exist in industries where it might be more obvious that there is a need for it, like in coffee, but direct trade has the same effects at home as well, right?
Sure.
And so, yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's the same when you see here the situation of milk production, no? A lot of farmers can't live from milk production anymore because the price which is offered from the market is so low that it's below the production cost. It's the same problems farmers facing here, no? So it's like the consequences of the market structure in supermarkets, for example, no? When focusing only on discounters like Aldi or Lidl, no? Or something like that. I think they're offering also their products in UK, leads to low prices, because this price is very important for them to reduce and to reduce. In the end, farmers can't make a living out of their products anymore. And it's the same for milk as it is for coffee, no?
And so we have to find different models. We have to at the end, we have to go back to a more direct way of trading. That's what you said earlier as well. I mean, I guess milk farmers are a good example, and I've actually seen two of my friends who work in that sector joining us today as well, Brooks Dairy and Molly Milk as well. That's the way for them as well, to achieve better prices and not to have to submit their high quality products to a big dairy company who just throws everything in one vat and sells it at whatever price they see fit. So I think we find these instances where direct trade, or a more direct version of trade anyways, is the way into the future more and more. And I think, as a consumer myself, that's one important aspect over the last couple of years that is really hitting home more and more, that even though obviously, at first sight, it's nice to go into a supermarket and find a product you love for a really, really, really good price. It does make you happy in the first instance, but then if you start looking behind the curtain and start to scrutinize why and how this product can end up on the shelf at that price, it's suddenly not as enjoyable anymore to buy it at that price, because it's just not right in many cases. It just can't last that sort of price policy, right? And so
Yeah,
that is something.
it's sorry.
That is something that needs to change, and it needs to change with all of us as well, right? Awareness of where things come from and how they end up costing what they cost, and what we're able to pay as well.
Yeah, I think consumers need to change their perspective on food. No, this is very important, because a lot of people don't value food as much as they value, for example, a journey to
Mallorca.
To coastline, Mallorca, for example. No, yeah, we need to. We should improve our daily living when we value more food, no? When we enjoy food and the preparation of food more than and don't consume food as just for nutrition, no? It's like this perspective should be changed, and then it would have a good an influence on living in situations of farmers worldwide, not only for coffee. When we talk about here we're talking about coffee, and yeah, when we enjoy a cup of coffee and spend a bit more for this cup, there was a calculation. You need to spend only 2 or 3 cents per cup more, and farmers would have a better living situation.
Yeah.
No, this is not much.
Yes. All right. And this has been super interesting, and obviously I think everyone can tell I could just keep talking about it forever. But I think we have kept people long enough for today. Thank you so much, Jürgen, for
Thank you,
being
Katja.
available and for having this chat with me today. And yeah, as I mentioned before, this is the first in our coffee chat series. I'm hoping to be able to have quite a few more of these, and maybe we'll get Jürgen back at some point as well, because it's always just amazing to tap into your fountain of knowledge when it comes to coffee. But I have a couple of other interesting conversation partners lined up as well. And so, yeah, thank you to everyone who's been able to join us today. And I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Katja.
Thank you. I hope it was interesting. I know it was to me. So
we just if someone has a question, we can open for 1 or 2 questions. If someone has a question.
Yeah. Okay, if you have time, then absolutely, yeah. Would love to.
Yeah.
If there are any questions, please, guys, feel free to drop them, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. I think there was one early from Jonathan. He asked, do small roasteries in the UK form collaborations to enable bigger direct orders? And I guess that's a question directed towards UK roasters, but I know that I forgot the name just now. I know there is one roaster, a collaborative, I think based somewhere around London, Flying Roasters or something like that, who follow that model. So yes, there are collaborations, not just in the UK, but in some other countries as well. I know of one example from the US, where roasters have gotten together to essentially create their own importing company, if you will, to cut out middlemen. Jürgen, do you have examples or insight?
Yeah, here in Berlin is one company who's doing the importing, but it's not specialty coffee. It's like companies which were founded in the fair trade area, like in the 80s, 90s. They are founded a company who's bringing coffee for them. yeah, it's not so much. No, some small companies are doing this. The problem is roasters always see the other roaster as an
competition.
Yeah, competition. No, this competition idea is very huge in the coffee industry, and yeah, I think it could be more like this. No, like this idea. I was always trying to do this, but it's always this competition problems, and hopefully farm roasters doing this more in the future. No, because it's very important. As always, one roaster can only buy a small quantity, and when they buy together, they could bring a full container. That's yeah. It would be good, but it's in the moment it's difficult because a lot of roasters thinking the other roasters is a competitor.
Yeah.
And it makes things difficult.
I mean, I think there are different sides to that story. On the one hand, there are a lot of smaller specialty coffee importers out there who do amazing work at origin, and who specialize in building long-term relationships with farmers who have specialized knowledge in the logistics surrounding bringing the coffees from origin to the consuming countries, but who also help with infrastructure at origin and all of these things. And so I do feel like they definitely have a place in the value chain, because in that sense they do add value as well. And so for me and for Kontext Coffee, we are working with a mixed strategy. Essentially, we source some of our coffees through importers who we know share the same values as we do, who we know work on long-term relationships with specific farmers and farmer cooperatives at origin, and work on their infrastructure, work with them on improving their quality, work with them to have better market access, and all of these important aspects. And then we also work with our friends from Right Side Coffee, for example, in Barcelona, one of the first specialty coffee roasters in Spain, who are still, relatively speaking, a small specialty roaster. But our friend Joaquin from Right Side, he has really focused over the last couple of years on creating his own relationships with farmers at origin, especially in Central and South America. And we're lucky enough to be able to source some of our coffees through him. And so even though, we didn't set up a separate business and form a collaboration in that sense, but in the actual sense of the word, it is a collaboration in the sense that us buying from him and our friends from Odkin coffee roasters in Bristol, they are buying from him as well. So we can collate our orders to get them over here to the UK. And so in that sense, it does make sense logistically to get together with other like-minded roasters and share the fun and the burdens and the costs as well in being more responsible and more ethical in the way you buy coffee from a roaster's perspective. I hope that answered your question, Jonathan. I think that was it as far as questions are concerned. So
okay.
We will leave you here. Thank you again. Very, very interesting. And yeah, I hope to see you all again soon for our next coffee chat. And yeah, thanks to Jürgen for your time. And I hope to see you.
You're welcome.
Well, right.
Have a good Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.